Yeah, it's hard when I've experienced similar things. I know Jordan has. We've talked about it. We understand kind of the sacredness of it. And I think part of that though is taboo. I think part of it isn't, right? Jordan and I have had this conversation a few times. And there's things that I keep back, and I know there's things he keeps back, but we do talk in generals, but that makes it hard to the scientific brain, and it makes it hard for the scientific community. And I get that because there's things that Jordan had been through that I haven't experienced, or that I read about, and it's like, okay, well, if they're not the same, first, how do we know we're not delusional, right? And maybe we're all sharing delusion, and not that I think that, but from a scientific perspective, we have to take that into account.
Yes,
because there are plenty of delusional people who experience majestic things every day. So
Right.
once we get past that, okay, we're not delusional, and we're of sound mind, and this is just something where it's part of the human experience, but it's not part of the human experience for the masses yet. It's just part of the human experience for individuals who are working their way through some sort of spiritual initiation. Well, then it's like, well, how come they're different? And not everything is. So then how do we go to what's common? We need to find commonality. And I think that's the problem with it being taboo, of people not talking about it, is it's hard to find commonality between these different experiences unless we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and really talk about some of these experiences that we've had, then that's how we as a community, at least how I see it, we can come together and start to flesh out what some of these other places might be. And I do believe that there are systems out there, and we're going to get into one of them, that has fleshed out. Well, we're not going to get into it too specifically, but they have fleshed out these different worlds and these different places, and they've used a lot of nomenclature and physicality and legality and process for this. And that's why I think it's so powerful, is because it's not just, oh, it's mine, it's special, I'm going to hold it with me and not share it with the world, and we're not going to get anywhere with that. Imagine if Newton would have said, calculus is mine, I love it, I'm not going to share it with the world. Where would we, Leibniz would have been in the back like, hey, I've got calculus.
Yeah.
But who knows if, but what do you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, so that's why the principles are so necessary, because whether you're having a hallucinatory experience, which could be the case, and it is the case, I'd say probably more often than not, because it requires a certain degree of refinement in the physics or of the biology of the human being. Like, as a mechanism, like we're becoming more mechanistically inclined to be optimizing this experience and our ability to perceive this experience in ratio to our capacity, and it's ever unfolding. And I would say that a lot of my experiences on the inner planes, as we would call them, normally happen before I come in contact with a manuscript or some scientific data or some type of ancient literature, because my left hemispheric approach to things, even though I'm right hemispherically inclined, my left hemispheric approach is always going to say, you could be tripping. Like you said, I could have been hallucinating. I was sober, but I was in a dream state, and, is it real? And that's why I think, like, the universe relates to each individual individually. And for me, I've normally, mostly, if not always, came in contact with the literature later after the experience. And I've had experiences that I've shared with Vitaly, and I've shared with you and some other people, where I've never read the literature, but somebody else might be acquainted with it, and they say, "Oh yeah, that's where this person, this famous person or master or yogi or whatever, they talked about this experience." Mm-hmm. I didn't have that literature available, so I can't use that as an excuse and say, "Oh well, I read that, it was in my subconscious mind, I hallucinated it." Even though someone might argue that reality, every perception of reality from every individual's perspective, is a hallucination, because there's an interface, but we're going to get into that. But
yeah, that's semantics, though. I mean, argue that all you want, haters. We're not talking about the semantics here. We're talking about our realities, whether they're illusions or not.